Hi, my name is Anne Russell. I'm the birth mum of 2 adult children with FASD, Seth and Mick, and I'm the founder of the Russell Family Fetal Alcohol Disorders Association. This is the 5th presentation in a series of 11, specifically on various aspects of FASD. Just short, sharp presentations designed to provide people with quick information as to where to go to find more in-depth information on that particular subject. This particular presentation will be on my son Seth's history. People may recognise it in their own children, they may connect with it. It's basically to round off the clinical information by using anecdotes and a real person's history. So Seth was born in 1984. He was very solid baby, 8 pound, strong, good sucking reflex, APGAR score of 10, fantastic. He was really solid little fella, and he met and exceeded his milestones. He walked at 9 months, and I can't remember specifically the rest, but he was very precocious, and there didn't seem to be any issues for him. There were little idiosyncrasies, and he was a funny and happy child, so really nothing really stood out until he was about 12 or 13. He experienced puberty, and that seemed to create so many more problems for him. And it was then that we thought, well, there was something, that needed attention. So I took him to his paediatrician, and he was diagnosed with ADHD. So we were both relieved then when we found that there was a reason for his behaviour and for not being able to concentrate at school and not being able to do his homework and getting very limited achievements, because I'd always hoped that my children would be academic. That's not to say that I'm not very proud of them now, doing what they do. Seth, at 12 and 13, got into drugs and alcohol, came home drunk, came home stoned. Didn't seem to matter. He didn't try to hide anything. He just walked through the front door. He was, drunk every night. There were people in the house I didn't even know. He'd walk out at 9 o'clock at night, wouldn't come home till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, fall asleep in school. Oh look, it was just absolutely horrendous. He would never be home at the correct time. He couldn't manage his money. Every time he got money, it would just fall through his fingers. He would make friends and then lose them, and be upset by the fact that somebody had done something to him. Oh, it was just awful for him. It was just dreadful. And as I said in an earlier presentation, he'd have a birthday party and no one would come. That was one of the hardest things for me as a parent, to see my son and know that only a very few people really knew what he was like inside, that he was a good person, and that his outward immaturity and behaviour was something else, and I didn't know what at that point in time. He'd attempted suicide by the time he was 14, so many times I didn't even know. It was, really bad, until he got a job. He left school at 15, or 14 years and 9 months, something like that. Very early anyway, far too early. And he got a job. And after several jobs, because he seemed to get them very easily, because he was a good talker, but he would lose them after about between 3 and 6 months. So he got a job at a news agency and then started stealing money, and the boss found him. And the same day we saw that he'd erected a ladder and a noose in the shed, and we knew we were in serious trouble. He was a very distressed little boy. we were losing him and we really didn't know what to do. So my first port of call obviously was a doctor who actually he spent a long time with Seth and me. He talked to Seth on his own and he seemed very surprised that Seth didn't want to leave home. He wanted to stay with us. Our home life was free from violence. My husband and I didn't argue very often. We were a loving family. It was a long-term relationship. But yeah, these things just kept happening. He was in trouble at school all the time. He was suspended. He went through a really bad time at school, and I think that set the tone for when he left school. Anyway, he stole money, he was sacked, and I just couldn't believe that this was something that was part of ADHD. Stealing money and then blaming the boss for finding it, and not sort of seeming to understand what had happened or his part in what had happened. I looked up on the net and found ADHD and sort of did some research. But right at the bottom of that page on the symptoms and the signs of ADHD was a heading that said, what other conditions can cause these symptoms? So I looked in there and the first cab off the rank was FAS, fetal alcohol syndrome. And I knew as soon as I saw those three words that this was what we were dealing with. When I got further into the signs and symptoms, it was like they were just talking about Seth. It was as though they had his history. Everything that had happened to him was down there on a piece of paper. So that was a really difficult time. I was relieved that all of these various symptoms and bizarre behaviour could be reduced to one condition. And that hopefully there were going to be strategies and medication and blood tests and things that we could do to help. But at that point, I really felt like the bottom had fallen out of my world, that I could have done something that had such devastating and lasting effects on another person, let alone my own son. Anyway, I was lucky enough to be able to go to a conference in Canada in 2000, and I met a wonderful doctor called Dr. Sterling Claren. He is one of the world-renowned experts on FASD, and when I was over there, I asked if he would be able to diagnose my son. He asked me to send a photograph of my son sort of face on, not smiling, with a 2 centimetre piece of tape on his head, so that his software could measure the facial features of full FAS. Sterling returned the verdict that my son had fetal alcohol syndrome, and when I knew that what the facial features were, it was very clear that he had those features. Anyway, that was the start of another journey for us, and one that I'll describe in another presentation. If you'd like more information on this condition, please email me at elizabeth@rffada, F for Fred. If you would like more information on the training that we deliver in Australia, that email address will get me, and I can give you that information. Have a look at our website and Facebook page. Join the RFFADA. We provide all our supporters with a regular newsletter and information on FASD from around the world. Thank you.